Hey there, welcome to the show. I'll be introducing our guest shortly. Enjoy the music. Bula folks, it was such a pleasure to speak to today's guest. She is a change agent in Fiji, a bold, persistent business leader who serves and empowers others. In a landscape where the creative arts and dance is more often seen as a hobby than a legitimate, viable profession, our guest today has led her team to change hearts and minds around their thinking in Fiji. Her team has created VOU Dance, a platform and a place where young Fijian artists can feel free to express themselves and create, a place where there's a wealth of talent, but not a wealth of opportunity. VOU is an entertainment company that explores current issues expressed through the form of contemporary Fijian dance in both the local and international markets. VOU has performed worldwide, from England, USA, Australia, New Zealand, even Lithuania, Slovenia and Latvia. They've won numerous awards at festivals around the world. VOU has approximately 30 employed dancers, both full-time and part-time, 2 dance schools in Nandi and Suva, and over 250 students from the ages of 1 to 75. Our guest today has most definitely challenged the status quo and created a new and unique space against the odds, and society is richer for it. I have the pleasure of introducing today's guest, Sachiko Soro. Pulavinaka. Bula Sachiko, thanks for joining us. I'm so thrilled to have you here on the podcast today. You are such a pioneer. You are a change agent. You have done so many cool things in a space where it's hard to do those things. And not only have you done those yourself, you've empowered other people. And so I'm excited to get into all of that. But I want to start at the beginning a little bit, and I wanted to ask you, how did you make the decision to pursue dance as a career?
Man, your words are so kind and a little bit overwhelming, and I'm not sure if I'm deserving of the platitudes. But thank you so much for having me in event. It's really cool to just have someone to talk to about everything and the things I love. So I started dancing. I grew up in Suva. I started dancing. I had some relatives from the Cook Islands that were teachers at our school. And we just started dancing with our cousins. I'm sure maybe your sister might have been in the first evolution of this dance group.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just did mainly Cook Island dancing for many years. And then when I was in high school, I joined the Oceania Centre, and my first step into the contemporary dance, and I just loved it. And at first I thought I wanted to be a musician. So I applied, good old Mrs. Ethel Naidu, taught me music through primary and secondary school, even though it was outside of school because there was no music or dance in the Fiji school curriculums. Mm-hmm. And then so I went to New Zealand to go to music school, and I just missed dancing so much. And so I auditioned to go into the dance school, and I think I was so passionate because all of the other dancers in the dance school had been doing ballet since they rolled out of the womb. But I just was with the guy. I was listen to me, I got to dance. I want to go back to Fiji. I want to start dance company there. I want to start dance in Fiji. And he could tell that I really wanted it, even though I was so spastic. And he was okay, I'll give her a chance. And so it was me and another Maori girl that sort of were the only ones in the dance degree that hadn't done ballet for decades before joining. But we just persevered, and she's running an amazing, successful company in New Zealand now. Mm. And I just loved dance school. Even though I struggled with ballet, I just loved contemporary and jazz and hip hop and everything. And I always had in my mind, I want to open up doors for Fijians. I want to because Fiji, even though we might not have the flips and the tricks, in our dance repertoire, but there's an energy and the spirit and the mana that Fijians have that is nowhere else. You know what I mean? 100%. When they take the stage and they, the singing, it just gives you goosebumps, and you you feel like a human connection, like you're like another body that you really like relate to. And that, that doesn't require all the fancy things, but I feel like the world, especially at times like this, when everyone's so divided, need things like that, need to see like other human beings and recognize how awesome we are as people and see our, our similarities.
100%, 100%. I mean, I was watching hip hop and a Chicago piece that you guys did last night. And you mentioned that the Fijians have this spirit and this mana and that they bring this to their performance. I felt that watching this. I'm in the US. I grew up in Auckland, which is a hub for hip hop dancing too.
Oh my God, you guys are the best dancers.
It's amazing. It is an amazing place and it's a great vibe. But I think the Fijians do bring a unique spirit and vibe to it. Was it a hard decision between music and dance?
No, I wasn't particularly good at music. I was terrible. So I wasn't like, oh God. But like, coming to what you were saying about mana, like, it was so funny because like, I think one of my dance friends from New Zealand, her name is Tia, she teaches Māori contemporary dance. And she was like, I think she asked like, they're doing everything on Zoom now. Like they're doing dance classes on Zoom. And she was asking me about this thing of mana. Like, in Pacific performing arts, it's such a central thing. It's a spiritual practice, and how does that translate through Zoom? And I was just like, I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I don't know. Like I don't know. And I was thinking like, it's still there. And then yesterday we had like human bodies in the studio for the first time in like months. And they were just like dancing and sweating, and I was just like crying. I was like, oh my God, people, it's so beautiful. Like, I don't think that there's any screen that can ever like replace that, that human experience of being around other people that are like fully expressing themselves with complete abandon,
100%.
So, even though Zoom has been very helpful, I don't think it can replace like dance and music,
That was actually a question I had. How did you foster that human connection while you were in lockdown?
It was really hard. Like, I have children and homeschooling. Whoa, oh my God. I was like, what is the pressure?
Oh, so much respect for parents. Honestly, that's the hardest. They have it the hardest. You guys, mad respect.
I was just like, how do I like not lose my mind every 24 hours? Like, but it was hard. So at first, like what we were doing with the dancers is we were working from home like everyone else. So they were doing like little like videos and stuff and like but it was really, really hard because dance is such a interconnected thing. So in the end, everyone took their annual leave, like until we came back, which was this week. So it worked out quite well. So they took the annual leave for the year and now we're back this week because I think Fiji's done quite well at containing the virus. Yeah, so we were lucky in that regard. I don't think it's going to go on too much longer.
Oh, good.
But we have no audiences. We have no audiences and we have no shows, which is a problem.
Right. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that can go two ways. I think it's hard to see right now, but I think this lockdown will also make people want that connection and performing arts. They'll be craving it even more. So I think that's the positive side of things. I think the concept of mana is very interesting, and I think you are a really good person to ask about this because mana have slightly different meanings amongst the Pacific Islands and in Maori as well. They use mana as this cultivation of respect and spirit that you build up over time, and that's why the elderly are more revered. It's do you have any insight into how mana is seen from the Fijian perspective and even wider than that in the Pacific Island perspective?
I don't know, like I feel like everyone's individual experience or perception or interpretation of it is like according to their own perspective and experience, you know what I mean? I just know what I feel as a human. You know what I mean? And it's very hard to articulate. It's like sort of like this ephemeral energy or something. And I know only, like, I experience when I see Fijian dance or I'm performing Fijian dance and song, you know? Like when I read old like texts, like a lot of our contemporary dance is based on historical research. So we go into the museum and the archives and we do a lot of reading and a lot of research behind even the contemporary work that we make. And I was reading a book about like Fijian meke. There's not much recorded of Fijian meke through the centuries, but apparently in ancient times, like a meke was, you know, when the whole community comes to dance and sing together, you know, right from the kids right up to the, you know, elders, they're all involved somehow in the meke. It was a symbol of the strength of that community. So if one village was thinking of attacking another village, they would go and they would share meke. And if their meke was very strong and unified and they would not attack because they were like, no, that's a very strong community. And if it was weak and messy and all over the place, they'd be like, okay, yeah, we have an advantage here. You know what I mean? Like, so that's like it's life or death kind of situation, you know? And like even wider, like it's such a universal concept though. When I graduated from dance school, like I got a job teaching dance in Indonesia in this like tiny town in Padang Panjang. And like no one spoke English. I had to try and learn Indonesian even though it's crap. And they have the same sort of like concept and they call it rasa. And there was a Malaysian guy that was teaching like dance there as well. And he was teaching traditional and contemporary Malaysian dance. And he was like always like, he was such an awesome teacher. And I just had so much respect for him. And he would always tell his dancers, like, I don't care if you get it wrong. Like the most important thing is that you dance with rasa. And that was like that's like their word for mana, you know, like, So my son's name is Rasa. Like I named it after that concept. Like I was like, oh my God, like this is so beautiful. Like, you know, like just being able to share that with other people is healing, you know, it's like a healing superpower. Yeah. And so that's what we hope to do with our dance. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So there's like a real connection between mana and expressing it through dance.
Yeah.
Like with the villages, you said the meke was the sign of how strong the collective mana of a village might have been.
Yeah.
So it's such a powerful, fundamental concept that you guys bring in your projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there a way you select different projects?
Oh my God, like it's so hard because like, you know, as an artist, you're like, oh my God, let's do that. Oh my God, let's do that. Oh, you're like, you just want to do everything. And then you're just like, okay, reel it back, you know, like, cause you know, in Fiji, there's no funding for the arts, you know, so we are totally self-supporting through the art. So even though we may want to do some projects, it's not like viable. Like, so we have commercial, sort of aspect of the company. So we have our theatre running that's near Denarau and that's bringing in money, and we have our like the shows that we sell tickets to, and that sort of supports the wages and salaries for all of the artists. And, you know, if we have any money from going on tour or anything left over, then we do our research projects and, you know, the contemporary weird stuff that we love to do, you know, like all the research into traditional dance. And then also question like, what is it to be a contemporary Fijian, like a contemporary in 2020, living in downtown Suva or Nandi? You know, you're catching the bus, you're like, you know, buying bean from the cart. You know what I mean? Like it's a uniquely Fijian experience, but it's modern. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, we're weaving baskets and going fishing, you know, so like, you know, making art about that's like communicating what Fiji is right now. I find that really interesting as a topic, you know?
Yes, because there's no perfect answer. There's no just snapshot of the current without having a look at the past and without mixing these traditions in the melting pot of Fiji. The way that I see VOU Dance from the outside is your projects just incorporate so many different flavors of Fiji. You don't ignore any part of it and you don't look at it in isolation. you answered that question that you posed earlier with this holistic view of what it's like to be a contemporary Fijian in 2020. I mean, we were having a conversation from across the globe, and we're talking about Fiji. That's like part of, what makes Fijians across the globe have this connection, right?
Yeah, we're all interrelated. It's so crazy. And you're in San Francisco, like, what a trip.
Yeah, it is a trip. Yeah, for sure. I described you as a change agent earlier, and the reason was because what you just described about the funding for the artist and the way you go about it, and you mentioned viability of projects, but at the same time, you don't compromise on your artistic vision. So you want to make, from my understanding, you make art that speaks to you first and then take it to the market.
Yeah. Well, we can't compromise our integrity as artists,
How did that come about? Did you first start a few projects on your own that you really wanted to do and then found that that there was a real demand for it?
Well, I just sort of started VOU because I just, young and like a bit naive about how things work. And be like, we just want to start dancing together. It's going to be so fun. And then, it's like, oh my God, like, how do you do this?
Yes.
And so it was like in the starting years, like a lot of trial and error. Like just trial and error, and I wasted years like doing the wrong thing. VOU's been going for 13 years now, and everyone it hasn't been fast. It's been very slow. The trial and error learning experience, like building up the brand, like realizing like, dude, if we want to take this seriously as a career path, it has to be financially sustainable for everyone involved. They need to be able to support themselves. That's like fundamental to it. And I just remember when I went to university in New Zealand, like it always baffled me that they were so funding dependent. Like someone would have like this great idea about like, I don't know, like like an environmental thing or questioning identity or whatever their idea was. And they're like, no, we can't do that because they're funding gay rights right now. Or that's not popular. They're doing climate change. Or that, you know what I mean? I'm like, what? You're just not going to make it because you can't have funding? That's ridiculous. Like, you can't, you need to make the work that you need to make,
100%.
I was just like, that's crazy. You can't like just change the concept because that's where the money is right now. It has to be like a serious idea. And if it's a serious idea that you need to do, then you find the freaking money for it. Like, I don't know, do whatever, hustle, like in non-dance ways, even like to be able to get the money to. So that was like, so that was always my observation in New Zealand. It was always really funny, like how artists almost like just expected the money to come. Like it was an expectation that whatever brilliant idea they made, like money would fall out of the sky.
It's such a different mindset that you probably encountered as a challenge there in Fiji as well. This like indifference to the money coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
How did you change that mindset?
In Fiji, in Fiji, like I don't know. We've never sort of like really applied for funding. The only funding that we've gotten recently is from a startup business entrepreneur sort of thing. It's not from an arts angle. So that's interesting that I'd be from the start, I was adamant that I was not going to apply for funding. I was going to make a point that it was going to be financially viable. So that, because the thing is, okay, rewind. Like in Fiji, you know what it's like. Like everyone's telling their kids, like, what are you dancing for? Like, that's ridiculous. It's not a job. It's not a career. Like, da, 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 da. So like, and in Fiji, like, you're not going to believe it until you see it, And so
absolutely,
we had to prove by people living and working as dancers that it was a viable career. That's the only way to do it. You know what I mean? So you have to make it financially sustainable. You have to prove that there's people working and living and artists, and then people will be like, okay, slowly, like, mindsets, bit by bit, people can change the way they perceive art as a career path. And that was why I wanted to make it like sort of stand on its own 2 feet. And that hasn't been easy. I mean, we still like financially a little bit, but whatever, we'll sort it out.
It's a challenge. And you're a trailblazer in that regard. No, honestly, that's part of why I'm doing this podcast. Is I want these stories to be told, of people to see that it's being done and it's possible. And I was reading a couple of profiles from your page for Navi, who I met earlier briefly.
Oh my God, he's so awesome.
And is it Rusiate? Rokulimau?
Yeah, Rusi. Yeah.
Right, Rusi. So their stories are fascinating to me. And how, like you said, in Fiji, who would have thought that dancing is a career? And for these guys to come from where they came from and doing the things they're doing, and empowering them from your side, what kind of mindset do you like to foster in young dancers coming up? How do you make them into leaders?
Yeah, well, the thing is that you get in a group of dancers, like for us, like we have a 1 week, like usually that didn't happen this year because everyone was awesome. But usually like we have a 1 week intake and we'll have like 20 dancers. By the end of 1 week, we're down to 10. Cause they're like, oh my God, this is a lot harder than it looks like. It's like
absolutely.
It's really tiring, and then like out of those 10, just certain leaders will start to emerge, the ones that are like choreographing on their own or the ones that are like super curious. And there's like a lot that are just happy to just dance or just, you know what I mean? But out of every group, there'll be like standouts that like are really hungry, really curious, like really want to research. And you just sort of like try and support them in any way that they can to follow what they are interested in. You know what I mean? Like whatever the curiosity like is for them, like some it might be writing, some it might be costume making. Like those are the stories you get, like you just see the choreographers that like Risi and Navi who are like so accomplished, like both of them are just amazing people. And they sort of got, still a lot of them, even though they're really passionate about it, like they still get a lot of pressure from their families, saying that it's not secure and you should go and do this or do that or whatever. Yeah, so I think for some of them it's really hard, but some of them are able to overcome those obstacles.
It seems like you have a real community around it and a real support system. Are you leading from the front with your husband as well? Both of you seem to lead from the front.
I hope so. I try. I'm not perfect.
Well, where did your leadership qualities come from? Did you have any mentors growing up yourself?
Like my parents are awesome. Like my parents both like run their own companies. Like my dad did like property development, and he was always very kind, compassionate, generous, like just really lovely. My mom's an architect in Suva. So just different qualities. And then I had different versions of leadership that were really bad and really good. Like I like paddled like hardcore in high school, and we had like a coach that we were on the Fiji team, and he was like scary, so scary. I learned so much from him, and he just like pushed us to our like mental, physical, spiritual like boundaries, like and beyond. And so he was really awesome. So I learned some great lessons from him. And then after that, going through, like I worked at many different dance companies, both in Fiji and New Zealand. And just seeing what didn't work is as important as seeing what does work. You know what I mean? Like as from a dancer perspective, knowing how you would like to be treated and stuff, is really important. And then always like reading, like every week I'm just like reading books, because I'm not I used to think that I was like a terrible leader and no one was ever going to take me seriously. But then like after reading like 100 leadership books, and they're like, no, you have to like believe in yourself, and like you have to, like all this like you have to like manifest and I'm like fully believe it 100%. And I believe like, as long as I'm always acting in the best interests of everyone, like in my team, if I'm genuinely acting and making decisions based on everyone's best interests, that makes me a great leader. You know, and I'm confident enough to say that. You know, I'm genuinely looking out for everyone. And I wouldn't have been able to get to this place without like reading everything I can get my hands on the subject of leadership. Yeah.
I mean, just listening to that sounds like you have this awareness as well to develop and take lessons from, you know, you identified your parents and you're grateful for that. That's awesome. You identified this coach that you had. You identified that you had to develop, and it's a ongoing thing. You know, you read all the time. So that's
coach.
Go ahead.
He always used to be like, like every day he's like, if you want to get anywhere in life, you have to think in 3D, discipline, dedication, determination. And it was like tattooed on the inside of my head. And I was like, yes.
It's like you're in the army or something.
Like, I know. So like 16-year-olds like, yes, sir.
I love that. Yeah. I miss the Fijian accent.
Yeah.
I miss hearing it, actually. It's so good.
Yes.
If you were to gift one book on leadership to someone, what would you give them?
Anything by Simon Sinek. He's awesome. He has a book called Leaders Eat Last, which is the best book on leadership. You know, it just means it's all about being a servant leader, like serving, like you're the leader, you eat last. You make sure that you're there to serve everyone. Then I just love it. It's such a good book. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that little bit of advice. That's awesome. Simon Sinek is someone that's everyone loves him in the US. He's huge here. I think there's another one. Start with Y. I've heard of Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah.
I'll have to pick up those books too. That's awesome. So I know that you are really passionate about the funding and entrepreneurship, and also being a woman in that space as well. What kind of challenges have you faced in the business realm?
So like everyone like does talk about a lot of challenges that women face, but there's also a lot of opportunities as well. So I feel like women underplay the opportunities to their advantage sometimes. Myself guilty of that. No, but I mean, like, are you just aware of it? Like, I mean, I never thought that I was any different from anyone else growing up, because I feel like my parents instilled a sense of like confidence in who I was. So like when people point out that I'm different, like because of my gender or race or whatever, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, and you know, like, so it's quite like startling.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so like, as a woman, like you're just aware of what works and what doesn't. So like, if I know I'm going to come across like some patriarchal douchebag that I need to get an approval from to like do something we want, I'll send my husband. Like I know, like I'm not going to try and fight the system. I'm just going to like, you know, go to get the shit done that I need to do.
Pick your battles.
At the same time, pick your battles. But at the same time, always advocating for women, always advocating for mentoring young women underneath me, making sure all of the women that I have like good tools to help them learning. I'm always giving the women that I have like books to read. I'm like, read this, it'll help you. You know, like just constantly trying to encourage them. And also I mentor a lot of our women into management positions as well, just so that other people get used to like taking instruction from women. You know what I mean? And I have had like not many, but like very few cases of people like not listening to me. I don't know, maybe it's because of my gender, but they would only listen to my husband. And I don't know if it was a gender thing. I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they were, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But yeah. So, and I mean, but there's also like lots of opportunities for women. Like there's a lot of free training you can get. There's a lot of like, I went to India for this amazing conference on like entrepreneurship because like the US Embassy had sponsorship for a handful of Fijian women entrepreneurs. I mean, awesome. I would have never I wouldn't have afforded to do that. Like, like that was, so that, I mean, that's like the benefit of it. And I feel like in Fiji, like women are economically marginalized, like they are, and they don't have economic independence in a lot of families. So whatever small way we can empower our staff to have their financial independence or like just their thought independence, it will be good.
For those listening, are you open to them reaching out to you if they?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm open anytime to like mentorship questions. Like if you want me to help you with resources or whatever. I mean, like reading resources, not financial resources.
It's good you cleared that up. Never know. You never know.
I'm open to other people's financial resources.
That's entrepreneurship right there.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. How can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
You can find me on Facebook, Sachiko Soro, or Instagram, Sachiko Soro. Or through the VOU websites or VOU Hub Fiji websites or VOU Dance Fiji websites. Yeah.
Great. I'd highly recommend those Instagram accounts just for pure content reasons. Some good stuff to put up.
That's Navi. He's super artistic. He's like awesome.
Yeah, that one of the things that I really love reading about is how many countries you guys travel to from Fiji.
Man, we're like so lucky with our work. Like we're up to 35 countries that we've traveled to. We were supposed to go to Africa this year. That's why I was like so bummed. I'm like, it's okay, it'll be next year.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've been like, it's a great job. Yeah,
I mean, going from Fiji to some of these places must feel so surreal. What's the weirdest, most surreal place you think you've taken your crew?
Man, we've been to I love the Pacific Arts Festivals. They're my favorite tours, like hands down. Like especially the Solomon Islands are probably my favorite tour. And going to Latvia, like it's just so, and like people are so curious about Fiji. They're like fascinated. They're like, oh my God. And then we went to Glastonbury Festival. It's like, it's like the biggest festival in the world. It's in England. And like, you see all these things online and you're like, oh my God, like Glastonbury, we're going to Glastonbury finally. It was so funny. We went from
amazing.
Fiji, like, 3 days traveling. And the English people are like, there's a bit of mud. You're going to need gumboots. And we're like, we've been to hibiscus. We know mud. Like, but it was like knee-deep mud, like camping in a tent, like on the ground, like pit toilets, and all the dancers were like, "Oh my God, this is like England!" Like,
what?
But it was so fun, and it was like, I know, but like it was so fun. Like there's artists from like all over the world. Like it's just like fascinating. Like from India and Kenya, and then like big artists like Adele and like Coldplay, and like like these kind of gigs. It was like, boy, it's crazy. It was really,
honestly,
like,
I might have been at that Glastonbury.
Really?
I was living in London at the time. Adele, Coldplay, and Muse were the headliners. So it must have been that same year.
God.
That's amazing. It was apparently the muddiest year for Glastonbury.
Oh my God. I can attest to that. I had 2 babies. I was like, where do I take it to bath it? Like, it was so fun. Though. Like after a while, I was like, just get muddy. I don't care.
When you said Adele, I was like, I think I was there that year when Adele was performing. She was.
Oh my God,
I cried a little bit when she performed.
So amazing, eh? Like her performance, like man,
one of the best I've seen. So you got to see you got to take some time out to enjoy the festival.
Yeah, because I think we had like 3 shows, and the rest of the time we were just like going to see everything we could.
Awesome. And how do you prepare your crew for these international experiences? Because so some of them might be the first time traveling. Is it challenging for some of the crew to be exposed to that?
It's like we have different kinds of shows that we tour. So some are like really contemporary, like what we did at Glastonbury was quite contemporary. Or it was like music and dance. And then we went to Edinburgh Festival, and that was like a very, very contemporary show. And then we do heaps of like super cultural shows. Like we went to France and Slovenia and these kind of places. And it's all just like only traditional sort of music and dance.
Right.
And people just like, Fijians, like they're so open and friendly, so everywhere you go, they're like making friends. And I was always terrified I'm going to lose someone, but that hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood.
Oh, yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a company that's based in China, in Shenzhen. So the dancers that are there, they live there. So they've been there for about I think 3 years now. And we just sort of change them. Like if they want to come back, then we send other dancers and stuff. And they love it. Like they just I don't know if they're ever going to come back. They're just, they love it over there. Modern kind of lifestyle. Yeah.
That's great. Sounds like they're really adaptable. Like the Fijian culture is very adaptable.
Yeah, very, very, yeah.
And there's a lot of fascination from other people because this is so unique. Probably haven't seen anything like it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, even me, I go overseas and I'm like, oh my God, everywhere I go.
Yeah. Oh, one interesting thing that I saw in your TED talk was you mentioned briefly.
God, you watched that?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, it's interesting. I love all that stuff. So I noticed that you mentioned it very briefly when you went to New Zealand. You had a little identity crisis for a little.
Yeah.
You were young, you were 18 around then, and it was very interesting to hear. How did you come to terms with your identity? What steps did you take?
Well, it was very hard at first, people questioning whether I was Fijian or not. No, it had never been a question that I'd ever thought about throughout my life. And I was just assumed that I was Fijian until I went to New Zealand and people were telling me that I wasn't. And so it was really weird. And I was just like, what are you guys talking about? And I was like, oh my God, who am I? And so, and it bothered me deeply for many years. And then I started overcompensating, trying to prove to everyone that I was Fijian, and going overboard with and then, that's not a satisfying way to be because you're not just being yourself, just your normal self, and when I came back to Fiji, I think that it just comes with being mature, and I can proudly call myself a Euro-Fijian. And there are a lot of Euro-Fijians in Fiji. It's not like I'm an endangered species. There's heaps. And just not giving a shit about what anyone thinks after a while, and then be like, take it or leave it. I don't care. I do not care. And,
absolutely.
And just 100% confident in my skin. And if you don't like it, that's fine. Maybe, and also distancing myself from people who are very judgmental and put people in boxy kind of situation, the put people in a box brigade, just no time for it,
100%. Yeah. I mean, who gives permission for you to feel like you belong? Who's to decide? Why put it in other people's heads? And especially in a place like Fiji has so many different identities and dynamics. It's something that I think a lot of Fijians face at one point or the other. And your case is super interesting. That European Fijian case. But
and the thing is, no one questions it in Fiji. No one. Everyone knows each other. Everyone, no one even blinks when you when I start speaking in Fijian, no one even looks twice that I might not be a dark color still because I speak Fijian. You know what I mean? But it's when you go overseas, it's just wait a minute, that's not what I was expecting. But people in Fiji, they sort of they know that we're all different kinds, so it's fine. Yeah. It's not to say that everyone gets along all the time, but I think we are quite accepting of each other.
Awesome. Beautiful. I know that time's getting on a little bit. I wanted to start going into the final few questions. First of all, what are you most excited about in the next year or so?
Okay, I'm so excited. I'm making a kids show at the moment for children, and it's just so much friggin' fun. I love it so much. It's going to be really funny, and the kids are going to love it. And I'm working with Dave Lavaki, who's a musician, a Fijian musician. and he's so fun, and we just have so much good times together. And also with the dancers, like writing the story and stuff, it's just been a great creative experience. I can't wait for that to come out. This COVID crisis has been like a hiding for us, because like we had so many awesome plans for 2020, and I was like feeling depressed for a few weeks, and then I just let it go. And now I'm really excited about like, you know, like finding opportunity in this crazy town situation, you know. So I am excited about relooking at the business model and like being way more realistic with what we can do going forward. I'm going to have to throw out some big dreams in the short term, but in the long term, they'll come back. You know, yeah, so I'm excited about the show. I'm excited to get everything up and running again. I'm excited I didn't have to close down the business. Like, there's been so many businesses closed, and it's so heartbreaking, like a lot of my friends and stuff. And I'm just so proud of the fact that I've kept paying the dancers throughout this crisis. You know, I'm proud of the fact that they're contracted dancers. Well, 40,000 tourism sector workers are just told by the hotels, like, okay, go home now, no pay. Like, the dancers are getting paid. Like, how crazy is that? Like, that was a message for all the parents of Fiji Islands.
Yeah, who said that dancers in a career? They pay even. Exactly. Let that be a lesson. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I love that you see the opportunity and you can express that gratitude. And without saying that it wasn't hard. It wasn't like you didn't get depressed like every one of us. So appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing that with us. And so this brings us to the last few questions, a little bit of on a lighter note. It's my quick fire questions. What's your... Yeah, you ready? What's your favorite?
I'm ready.
What's your favorite food from Fiji?
Roro.
Oh, yes, good answer. Beautiful. Oh, making me hungry now.
Making me drool. Yeah.
Roro is taro leaves and coconut and spices, and you gotta try.
Good Fiji chicken curry is good too.
Yeah. Well, all good answers. All good answers. Would you recommend kava or yangona to a friend?
Yes, of course.
No brainer, of course.
Okay, but yeah, it's good.
It's so funny when I talk to someone, a Fijian who's no longer living in Fiji. They just step around it a little bit. They're like, oh, maybe. But I love that in Fiji. Like, it's such a part of the culture. It's so good.
Totally. Whenever we go on tour, especially to the UK, I'm like, to the dancers, I was like, don't pack clothes, just pack kilos of grog and go and sell it there.
Make a killing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a kava bar here in San Francisco.
I saw that online. That's so cool.
Yeah. So people love it. There's definitely a demand. Yeah. Maybe I'll have one tonight. Maybe. Okay, final question. Sachiko, what's one thing you would tell a 10-year-old kid from Fiji?
One thing I would tell, be persistent. Things like success takes way longer than you think it's going to be. So whatever dreams you have, don't let it go in a year. Don't let it go in 2 years. Don't let it go in 3 years. Give it a good 5 years of consistent effort, you know, and you'll get there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And with that, Sachiko, thank you so much for making the time today. I had a blast hearing your story and everything you had to share.
Thank you so much. I think that you're doing a great job, like sharing Fijian stories. It's so exciting, and like this is the first time I've been asked to do a podcast, so I'm like really, really excited. And thank you so much for thinking of us. Thank you for showcasing the dance in Fiji, and I wish you all the best. Like, yeah, and I have heaps of people I can recommend to you too. So,
thank you. Please do, absolutely. And you know what? I'm gonna be persistent with this. I'm gonna make this consistent. I will be having guests all the time. And, you know, it's been a learning curve first few times, but I've got so much out of it, and I appreciate that you do as well, you know?
Can you tell me, like, what's the mission and the sort of like the genesis, like what's the sort of like purpose behind it?
Sure, for sure. So like identity we talked about, right? So as I got older, I was drawn more and more to having a clear answer on identity. Who am I? Where am I from? Go Fiji, New Zealand's got such a big influence on me. I was in London, all these places, and I was always drawn to this connection to Fiji and like how it's shaped me. And wanting to understand that, I wanted to see more stories that are real about people from Fiji and how they experience being Fijian in this modern world. And I was trying to find stories, and there are some stories out there. There's things written in articles and things that people have done, like they've done this is this, these are the awards they've won, but there wasn't anything in a format that I could absorb that goes down into like what's the good and the bad, what is it like, and there's no one story. There's so many stories, and I was looking for that. And so I thought, why not start? If I can't find it, why don't I start it? I'm in San Francisco. I love creativity. I love projects. I love putting things together. And sometimes I question my abilities to like be a host and things like that, but you never know until you start something. And
exactly. And I feel like it's especially for people in the international diaspora that want access to those sorts of, and connect with other people like yourself, you know what I mean? I think it'll go from strength to strength. I think it's a really great idea.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing, like the diaspora, there's so many interesting people, and sometimes, like you said, you don't know what you can do until you see it. And so part of the purpose is to share these stories with people from Fiji, younger generations, but also Fijians from around the world who can like see these things going on and maybe have a clearer understanding of their own identity, or maybe see a great idea and want to get in touch with someone and be like, yeah, I want to get involved with that, or I want to start my own thing. And to be honest, if there were more podcasts that did this, more Fijian podcasts, I think that would be a success in my books. If they can see like someone starting something like that.
Who's been your audience like so far, like your main sort of like audience?
So I've had to rely on my own following, which is like family and friends. So a lot of that so far. And
as you do it, it'll grow, eh? Like, because like all the people will share it and stuff,
Yeah, totally. And I see that in the long term. It's about growing it. And my networks are in New Zealand. And then Fiji, I went to school in Fiji as well, so some there. And then friends and family, my wife's American, so her family follows me, and they've been really good supporters. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, so all sorts of people. So I'd love to have more of an audience in Fiji, especially because I think there'll be it's a great place to share the story.
There's a section of community that listens to podcasts, but like with everything, it's like it's a cultural shift in their habits of listening to podcasts. It's not like a fashionable, it's not like a mainstream thing here, but I'm sure that is going to start to change.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So one thing I'm planning to do, and I'm a one-man production, so I'm trying to have more short form content. So that's why I go on YouTube as well. Even though I have to edit the YouTube videos and I have to edit the audio, that's fine because, like you said, different people adopt different technologies and different ways of consuming things.
Yeah.
So in Fiji, like people are so good with mobile phones and things like that. So So if they see something on YouTube, maybe they'll see, conversations are good when they're long because you can get into more things, but then to distribute that content out, maybe look at like little smaller bits. Yeah,
so people, it could be like 30 seconds and they're like, oh, that's interesting. And then go and,
Yeah, totally, 100%. So it's exciting. It's fun.